Hey, Jeff, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, how are you, Ashley? So great to see you. And I know we go back so many years now. It's great to always
Yeah.
work with you and be around you and your team. And it's, I think, a long time now. So we'll
Yeah.
laugh again today.
How long has it been?
I think it was probably pre 1950 is what I believe. And we've just maintained ourselves so well. No, it was right after the Y2K scare. No, it was likely in 2007 or 8
Wow.
back then. So it's been, I think you and I had just uh, been old enough to vote, and then we just started doing shows together.
I was trying
Something
to
like that.
think today, prepping for this, and I was trying to think of like how we even met, and I couldn't remember for the life of me. But I so
Through
appreciate.
our friend Faith.
Oh yes, our friend
Yeah,
Faith. That
who's a
is great.
phenomenal performer, radio personality, and connected us at a comedy competition and some events you were producing, I think, for UCSF at the time. Or,
Right. You've
yes.
got good memory. You've got a
Well,
great.
you know what? My long-term memory is fine. Seriously, like stuff I did, 10 years ago is good. But what I did like last week, I'm trying to remember my children's names, and that's
Oh my goodness. Okay, well this is a good start to your long-term memory then. So you're a native New Yorker, and comedy was always part of your life growing up. When did you realize that you wanted to do it professionally?
what gave it away that I was from New York. Is it the anger or is it the rolling of the eyes? Comedy to me is always just a part of life. And my mother was, God rest her soul, was an amazingly funny woman who always made us laugh. We never grew up, and my dad too is a very funny guy. We never grew up with a lot of things, and comedy has always been, laughter has always been something that you laugh through the challenges in life as part of the survival mechanism. So growing up in New York, I think comedy is always, everybody's a wise guy. Everybody's trying to one up everybody. How do you stand out when there's so many people trying to get attention? Or I have two brothers, we're all trying to eat. And it's humor, making each other laugh. And it's a protection. For me, it was like a survival mechanism because I grew up in a couple of rough areas of Queens, New York, and people would try to mug you and take your bus pass was a big thing. And if I can make them laugh, they would be like, leave the kid alone. We'll find somebody else. Or I would distract them long enough to run, and that's a true story. I was very fast with 50 pounds of math books on my back. And then when I got to junior high school, I realized if I can make the girls laugh, it didn't matter what I looked like. So, and then making my mother laugh was always a joy. So to this day, I know she's up there. Hopefully, she laughs once in a while.
Still
But
laughing.
yeah, that's part of it. Is my mother's laughter from people. Seeing that joy always makes me happy. So that's always something I wanted to do. And I remember watching Eddie Murphy, who's not much older than me, but it was almost like, wow, that spoke to our generation back in the 80s. That look at what he's doing, look at the response, and I was just like, I got to do this. I want to do this.
That's awesome. Now, one of your first national TV appearances was on the Late Show with Craig Ferguson, right?
Great Late Show, right? Yes,
Yeah. Tell us about that experience.
phenomenal. It was. That's a great show, and Craig is a wonderful performer and had a terrific following, great energy, very funny, still performs. And I was speaking at a business event in Southern California, and humor has always been again part of my communication process. So I said something, I don't know, and then somebody came up to me, "Hey, I'm the stage manager on the Craig Ferguson show," and I'm like, "Yeah, right." It's like, "Yeah, sure you are." And he goes, "No," he goes, I really am. Can you get me a video or something?" And I go, "Can I get your video?" "Oh, here." It was in my pocket, and it wasn't VHS. It's not that long ago, but I sent it to them, and they said, "Hey, we'd love to have you on the show." And that to me was just exciting. It was a national credit. It was on CBS. People around the country got to see it, and it was really as you start to perform, it's some, I don't say validation, but it's certainly a start. And it's years ago people would get kind of the blessing or get passed on the Johnny Carson show or then the Letterman show, which have always uh, took a long process to get on. So today the rules are different today, and we will probably talk more about the internet and social media and podcasts and how people now get themselves known is very different than how they got known years ago. So
Yeah. So you've opened up for several legends. Tell us a little bit about those people who inspired you and that you've worked with in your early career. And then what's some of the advice that they gave you that kind of stuck with you for your career?
Yeah, most of the advice was get out, and and or followed by did you go? Yes. So write some jokes, kid. Write some jokes. It was always people who paid the price. So I mean, Robin Williams was just actually such a very sweet, kind human being. Always amazingly encouraging. Working with some comics, I remember at the Improv or at Rooster T. Feathers in Sunnyvale, or at some clubs in San Francisco. It was always, what's the goal is. My goal is, when you first start out, they usually have you host shows and start off shows. Is are you confident on stage? Can you bring the audience together, and can you set the environment for them to be successful? Right? It's really knowing about setting. It's always about setting up the audience for the next performer when you're hosting. If you're if you're headlining a show. I remember the first time I had a paid gig. The headliner said to me, he said, "Learn to be comfortable with the silence." And I'm thinking, he must have been watching my act, and clearly there was a lot of silence. And he didn't mean it that way. He meant it that often, like Jay Leno says, when you're kind of losing your control, if you will, slow down.
Mm, mhm.
Slow down. And I often find that when I slow my pace down, because in our mind we get excited about something, we want to tell them, we want to go out there and tell them, and all of a sudden it's just, if I slow down, believe it or not, the audience will actually listen closer, and they'll look at you like, wow, you're confident. It's really all about that connection with the audience. Comedy, to me, is like a connection with the audience. If you connect with the audience, do they relate to you? Do they like you? Do I like a performer when I watch? If I like somebody, if they like me, the boundaries of the topics I can cover get expanded. And the time goes like this. An hour feels like 5 minutes. If they don't like you, the topics you can cover get very, very narrow, and 5 minutes feels like an hour.
Yeah.
So it's really just slow down, take your time, and you have to get to a point where you don't care what the audience thinks. I mean, you always will. Obviously, your motivation is to hear them laugh. When you give any kind of speech or any kind of talk, right? It's that connection you want. My background's engineering, so when I'm talking to engineers most of the time, they're not necessarily emotionally demonstrative people, right? So they're sitting there like this, and then, when you first start, you're like, I'm spending my whole energy getting this one guy to just move an eyebrow, right? And then they're sitting there, you think, is this guy, somebody put a mirror up and see if it fogs. And then the guy will come up to you at the end of the show and go, hey, that was the funniest thing I've ever seen. And you're like, really? I said, dude, what were you doing? Calculus while you were sitting there? Because I look at your face and I saw death. So it's really just learn to be comfortable with who you are. That's a lot of it.
And that plays a lot into business in general.
Yes.
Yeah. So when you look at your career and you started to get into doing comedy more and more as a business, and a lot of comics go in different directions, whether it's
Yes.
stand up or TV, you do a lot of live performances. How does comedy play? Like how did you look at the business side of comedy when you first started?
Great question. And to me, it's always, and I ask new comics, what's your goal here?
Mhm.
We all we want to be a rock star. We want to be on stage and have every woman in the audience want us. I mean, that's what they think, not for me, in case my wife sees this. But but that's what we want, right? So we want that, and then you start doing shows, and you're going, club owners and bookers will know somebody new is going to be more eager to get work or booked work, and the question to them is always, will this person meet the need, right? But I always say it's about disciplines. My background is engineering, so I was the guy who actually left the party early or stayed in because I had so much homework and crap to do. Um, I always ask them, what's your goal? And I say, what business are you in? And the answer is, you're in the business of where's the money made in the comedy business? And often it's made in the alcohol, the beverage, and food and all that stuff that's sold at the club. How many butts are in the seats when you're on stage? Club owners may often not even care if you're funny. Right now, that may determine if you have a following or people like you, but often, are you somebody that attracts people and puts them in the seats? And there's a point where how am I negotiating my compensation? Is it a door deal? Is it ticket sales? Is it a percentage? Is it a flat fee? But I always tell people, you got to value yourself. Now, when you're first starting out in any field, comedy, you'll go to open mics, and your payment will be a drink ticket, or some a thing of peanuts that 45 other people touched at the bar. Can't wait to get that. That COVID is the least of the worries I have. So, what are you trying to do? You got to pay your dues, though, to develop your act. So, you may not make a lot of money in clubs necessarily, especially when you start, but it gives you got to burn and develop your skills, and it's a place to work out. Go. And I go to open mic still to work out new material. But when I'm booking business, whether it's a corporate event or a private event or theater or something, I expect to have payment, and also I'm going to bring a product that you hone your product, you see what audiences respond to, give them a price that's often, I'll ask somebody, what's your budget? And sometimes it'll be below, sometimes it'll be above what I was thinking or was willing to, but you've got to be willing to ask for what you're worth. And that's the thing. I think a lot of us, as we go into any new field, right? Think about the first event you booked, right? And you're like, I'm asking these people for thousands of dollars, and I have to, and you're going, what makes me think I can actually do the gig, right? And you have to. It's like, remember, your first $1,000 gig is like some kind of like milestone that you go, oh my goodness, I made that's real money, right? But then it goes far beyond that, and you say, hey, am I professional? Am I putting together material that's going to connect with the people? That's going to, if you do corporate gigs, there's always so many more uh, things you can and can't say because somebody may get offended. And again, for me, it's all about, does the client feel like they're able to work with me? I mean, I remember we did a gig together where you had me in, and I was introducing Willie Brown and all these other people. And it was like, hey, there's got to be a level of professionalism you expect. But for the business side, go out there, again, focus on developing your craft more than, you did two shows and now you want to be on TV. Very rarely do you find somebody that's good enough to do that. Once you get good enough, and then you start to get, work with others who are more known, who have paid their price, then you have a chance to raise your prices. And most of my work I get, thankfully, I appreciate every gig I do is word of mouth or referral, or once I establish a relationship with the client, they see that I become part of their organization. I know them, they know me, they could trust me, and then my compensation is very fair, and they get very good service and delivery. And again, yes, I'm still telling jokes and making people laugh, but it's a product that we're producing. The product is the whole experience, right? That we sell. It's an event. You go to a comedy show, it's an event. If I'm there, I'm putting it out, I'm promoting it. Thankful to everybody who comes to a show. They buy tickets, the club makes the money, and then I have a great place and a great audience often to perform for. And that. Obviously, that's a piece of what I get as payment, but also I have a family, and also, even if well, I don't need to take, no, you need to take the money because you're doing a service. And if you don't, people are going to take advantage of it, right? They'll be like, hey, can you come and do this benefit? Yes, I'd like to do benefits, but I can't do every benefit because unless you pay me, I'm providing a service to help you. My presence will make, help me bring in more money for your organization. And that's my goal, is to make you all successful.
I think
Long
that's
answer, I hope. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And the fact that I think sometimes people forget that all the elements of the event matter to the success of the next event, right? So if people have a good time, people enjoy themselves, they're going to want to buy tickets and come back the next time. If they didn't enjoy themselves, they're not going to. So all of those little key pieces and parts of the puzzle make it a great event. It's not just the food. It's not just, the actual cause sometimes. Now, you brought up, which I don't know if people in our audience know you well enough to know, but you brought up how you do a lot of like MC work and stuff with me. So we do, like, when I first met you, you just did stand up. Like, you opened the show or you did that, but you also do MC work, you also do a Rat Pack show, you also do all these different things. And do you ever feel like you get kind of pigeonholed into, like, people are like, oh, he wouldn't be able to do something or he wouldn't want to do something? Because we use you for very different purposes
Yes.
depending on the client.
Great question. And Here's the thing. So just to build on what you shared. So in addition to doing, I do pure stand up, right? At a club, I can open at a club, I can feature at a club, I can headline at a club, and I do all those. Happy to do all those. They're all different parts of a show. MCing work, I've spoken professionally business events for years, and I like, the energy that I could, hopefully get out of an audience that's live, right? Even on Zoom, we've done that, right? So I'll MC a job to really set the tone for the entire event. People have hired me. Rat Pack. So I grew up doing theater and singing. My mother was an opera singer. I would, uh, sing and do this. My dear buddy Mickey Joseph calls me. He's a comedian. Calls me. I don't know, 20, almost 25 years. He says, Jeff, can you sing? I'm like, who is this? It was Mickey. And I said, yes. And he says he was part of this Rat Pack tribute show that Sandy Hackett, Buddy Hackett's son, was casting for in San Francisco, and they needed another Joey Bishop, who was I know you were thinking Sammy, but I'm a little too tall. That they were thinking that that I could play that role as a comedian but also need to sing. So that worked out extremely well. And I've had a show here where we bring back the music. We have a Sammy, a Frank, a Dean. I play Joey. We have a Marilyn. We have a phenomenal band. And that show we do multiple times a year at restaurants, at theaters, and it brings back the music. And it's all about, and I'm going somewhere with this. So it's all about bringing back memories for people. And I love that the American standards and the Sinatra stuff. We all love that music. And music, is a universal language, and laughter and bringing that whole experience together. It's like a Broadway show, a Vegas show right here in your backyard. So when he called me, I got referred to that also because a few other comics were asked, hey, would you be interested in doing this? And I'm like, that's really different than what I do. I have to say, my attitude has always been, I'm not the guy that says yes, yes to everything, right? But I'm always the person that says, if somebody comes at me with an interesting proposal, hey, listen, I got this Rat Pack show. I'm thinking, you know what? That is different. That's interesting. I'm going to embrace that. Even some of the gigs you've offered me, it's different. I always say, I don't just say yes. I ask about it, but I see it as, to me, it's a challenge, but also interesting, and it's an opportunity to expand my capabilities. And most times things work out really well because I was open to taking on a different experience. Even one of my, here's what happened. I took I have three children. So when my middle boy was 5, he was at a birthday party, and I went to pick him up, and I was talking to the parent, to the other person, and he said, oh, what do you do? And I said, well, I do stand-up comedy, and my background is technology. He goes, oh, I work over here. Odd question. Do you do any videos? And I go, I do, right? Every comedian does video,
Yeah.
right? Funny videos. So I embraced that. I had some folks, we did couple of corporate humorous videos for him that worked out really well. Then we traveled and did some. He says, you know what else? I'm at this new company. We're doing these trade shows. I could see you coming to help, entertain an audience. And I said, you know what? Yes, I can do that. I've done that at other things. And then I just said yes, because to me, it was a way for me to expand my capabilities. And from that, not only has it been, a great piece of my business, but also I'll often I believe we're also living in a world of abundance, right? So people would say early on, I look at the people who helped me that said, hey, Jeff, here's a gig for you. And
Mhm.
some folks say, I don't want to share the name of that booker or that because they're not going to call. I want to get the gig again. Somebody books me this month or this year. Then they call me, hey, we want you back for our event next year. I'll often say, believe it or not, no, you don't. You just had me, unless these people are, 90 and will forget, which are actually most of my gigs too, right? You don't want me back. I will give you somebody else, give you variety, have me back next year or the year after. Every time I've given away a gig, I've gotten back 10. And I want people to think about abundance, right? Here's the thing, I can't be everything for everybody. And every comic, they stole my act. People do steal jokes and things, but I'm like, I talk about my own personal life. Nobody can steal that. But I suggest to people, I can't do every gig. And I've also, from all these opportunities, gotten the ability to say, oh, wow, I could be double booked, or I could give this to somebody else who's a friend, or help them grow just as people reach out to me. And
Mhm.
when you live in that, to me, when you live in that world of abundance, I've found more stuff comes at you. And I love the fact that all these pieces then become part of all the business that I could do, but all the capabilities I have to say, yes, I can handle that gig. Yes. Or if I don't think I can or time wise, I'll reach out to somebody I think can meet the need. And the clients will appreciate that and respect that I'm trying to help them anyway, right? If I help you, you'll remember that for the most part.
Yeah. And you do, I think I've had you do this for me before, is you work a crowd really well and not on the stage. Like if you've got an event where you need like people to start interacting, feel a little more comfortable, get them relaxed and kind of moving, like you're great at just being hired to work the crowd, which I love.
Yes.
So when it comes to all these different varieties of things that you do, how do you have to change your style a little bit, or how does that work?
Sure. I mean, again, the goal is, everybody has a different social style in terms of how they communicate, and I do my best to try to. I always see it as my job that I'm a host and I'm trying to make everybody feel comfortable mentally, which means that Ashley walks in. I say, "What's important to Ashley? Let me ask you, what do you need? I want to meet your needs." Some people just want data, bottom line data. Some people want to laugh. Some people, I've been to conferences where they have the stickers. Green means please talk to me. Yellow means only if I know you. Red means no, don't talk to me. And in my mind goes, why the hell did you go to the conference? Right. But again, that's in the technical world. There's more people on the spectrum too that are maybe not as socially comfortable also. But I want to make the person who's a big screamer and wants to be happy, as well as the person who wants to be left alone and just be entertained. So it's really uh, looking for clues and trying to relate to who they are and then communicate in that style. So the goal is always, again, try to connect. And when I do a new organization, I did a gig last year for a great group that does that does like TV, free TV streaming and everything. And I hadn't done an event for that specific industry. So we joked, and after about half an hour, I got a feel for who they are, what they thought, and they were not necessarily responding to things. So I finally and sometimes I'll walk the line. I said, at this point we'll take a pee break. Well, this is a streaming conference, and then all of a sudden they laugh, and I'm going, okay, now we got him. And it wasn't like, oh my God, he offended me. No, I think people will feel your heart and know your intention, as opposed to, is he trying to say something nasty and mean? No, right? It's about trying to really relate and connect to people,
Yeah.
and that's how I move back and forth. And we're always all over the map. I don't think I've ever not multitasked in my life. Right? I have 14 things going on in my space here right now. By the way,
You always are busy.
yeah.
Okay, your dry bar comedy special.
Yes,
Tell us more about that.
that was awesome. So, Dry Bars company out of Utah, Provo, Utah, and they focus on clean comedy, and they have a really great system of, you go out there, they shoot in 4K, four camera shoots, and they distribute those clips. They have a great network of comedians, and I very dear friend of mine had done very well, and he said, I'm going to recommend your style. You work clean, and also you also can be funny. And I said, you sure? He said, he laughed. So he referred me, and I sent him a video, and then you don't hear anything for months. They finally got back to me and said, yeah, we found a date. And literally I went out there. I have fraternity brothers and friends that actually live in Utah, where they do a lot of skiing up there, right? The parks, was it Park City? They came down, and the audience was just tremendous. I knew some people there, like I said, and it was a week before the world shut down for the pandemic. So we had an audience. I think that's where the whole thing started, right there at that show. All the laughter and the spewing, as we did it there. No. And then they post it in his clips. It's a quality video, and I've gotten a lot of good feedback from it. So it's just something, again, a piece of your portfolio, and I was thankful to do it, and it's out there. So
Love it.
yeah,
Now, you do work with obviously different types of corporate groups, different nationalities, all of the all of the different areas. And I know that you tailor your jokes to every group that comes around. How do you, to your point earlier, how do you do some of that without offending somebody?
I'm actually, I'm actually going to be in Trump's cabinet because of I cover everybody. The, um, well, the key is, they say if you try to please everybody, you'll please nobody,
Mhm.
right? So I find I spend time talking to the leadership of any organization I perform for. Tell me about your event. Tell me about your audience. Who's going to be there? Tell me about what you care about. What do you want them to experience by having a comedian there? Or what do you see as my role? And then we'll ask, how have you done this before? I find I have such a different background coming from New York. My wife's Chinese. Our family's Jewish. We have African Americans in our family. We have everybody. Establishing my differences and where I come from, audiences, will tend to be more accepting of wow, somebody may understand my differences here. If I do a lot of events for the Indian community from India, right, in tech. So there's certain cultural things that I'm aware of that I've learned that they've taught me that I can refer to or call out as in the engineering community that people who are engineers. So I'll always ask or try to do some research on the background of people or understand who are the leadership to be at least educated. Or if you go to a certain city, right? What is the city known for? What are things that are local references that, and again, a lot of comedians do things like that because people always feel if you're interacting with them and you're talking to them about things they know, it's wow, that's the whole purpose. A beautiful thing about a live performance, right? You can interact, and some people will say things, and you try to go with the flow.
Awesome. Let's talk about. I think this was early in your career. You had a spot on the Pursuit of Happiness movie.
I did, and believe it or not, I still get royalty checks for that. And my kids were like, "How much is it?" I'm like, "I still get checks 20 years later." So there, right? So I've as a lot of comics and performers do, they'll register with the casting agencies, and I've gone to several things where we play in the background. To me, it's again, I always open myself up. This is different. This is like so. My education, my official education, is in electrical engineering and computer science, right? So, well, why? How can you do comedy? I'm like, nothing I built worked. I needed an option. So these people, like I always say, they used to say to my mother, again, and they'd say, "What do you feel about your son has 2 engineering degrees and he's doing comedy?" Not with any particular bias either. The people will say that. What does your mother think? I'm like, can you change your face? You look like you ate something bad. And I said, and then I'd surprise them. I'd say, my mother is thankful and proud that her son could pursue more than one path and try to do well at it. And they'd be like, because they're probably trying to show off their children. So like, my mother's like, bring it. She was awesome that way. Um,
So what'd you do in the movie?
so what happened is
If you haven't seen it
yeah,
or
so
never
here's
yeah,
what happened. If you
yeah.
blinked, you may have missed it. So I looked at it and like certain things like to be on a movie set and be in a movie, it's timing and from here I'm in the South Bay and San Jose area and people drive to San Francisco, park and everything. Again, that's no price at all for what you want to do. But they're like, we really, I didn't see there was much opportunity, but like, no, the directors really like your look for this role. And I'm thinking, they want a Jewish guy in a financial office. I get it. Okay, that's what it was. It was a financial. So I get it. I know what I look like, right? Right. I'm not gonna. They're not gonna cast me as a supermodel. I'm aware of that, right? Unless they. And so I went there, and I'm in the background, and then all of a sudden the director goes, I see him talking, and they come to me. They go, "You come here." Me? They're like, yeah. And all of a sudden, apparently, I had a look that looked like this guy, Jew in the financial office look. And then all of a sudden I turn around and Will Smith is right there. He didn't slap me. He was right there. And I went, hey, we talked, we said hello. And I was Dean Witter employee number one or two, I can't remember. So I had a role. I had a speaking role. I had to walk through a door, look at Will, look at his boss, this guy Brian, the actor Brian. I said, "Hi, Jay," and then I heard cut. I'm like, I probably screwed that line up 14 times. I had to do 10 takes. I'm like, did I mispronounce the word Jay? I mean, I don't get it. But in any case, and then from there, my name is in the credits, and I'm in that. I'm in there. I don't know, 20 minutes and 37 seconds. Nobody, but who's counting, in the movie. And from that, it's that's how I got into the Screen Actors Guild, and how and how I'm now an official, accomplished. So that's one more thing to check off: a SAG member and in a major motion picture. And
That's awesome. I had to go back and watch the movie after I met you
most
to
people do, and go, we still didn't see you. I go, did you get up to get a drink or use the bathroom? They go, yes. I go, that's why you missed me.
Oh, that's awesome. Love it. Okay, so you mentioned your engineering degree, which again, I feel like most people who have met you, they've probably met you through a corporate event, something that you've done, so they don't know that you have actually two degrees from MIT, correct?
Yes, they had very low standards back then, and they let anybody in. And I do. So I I have my undergraduate and graduate degree, masters in electrical engineering, and I always loved to play and tinker as a kid. I still do. I still love to fix things, right? When they go, Jewish guys can't, I go into Home Depot and go, yes, we can. Si se puede. And I go and I fix things. I like to build. I like to build things. So from that, I always, because getting to and from school was so dangerous growing up in New York, literally on public transportation. Once I got to school, I got focused and did well in school, and enjoyed the competition with the other students, and math and science were always things I really embraced. So did engineering, and still keep my hands in tech because it's interesting and it's a great time to be involved in tech. And then went on to grad school, but I don't talk about it. If it comes up, I'll mention it, or if I perform for um, any of the groups from India, they are always very happy about that. Then they always go, "Oh, please!" They go, "How do I get my son into MIT?" I go, "I have no idea because I can't get my kids in." So I didn't make the big $14 million donation yet. So and getting any kid into any school these days, my second kid's in school now. My daughter is a junior in high school. So it's insane what you have to like. Did the child win the Nobel Prize at the age of 14? No, I'm sorry, we'll put you on the waiting list. It's
Yeah. Oh
crazy.
my goodness. Well, and you're kind of like a Clark Kent. You're like engineer by day and comedian by night, right?
Yes, yes, I like that. Yes, and I need to wear glasses more too. Yeah, I can't even see that. That's right.
There you go. There you go.
Let's talk about AI. Two Jews walk into a bar, and it's terrible. So whatever. Thank you. But to me, yeah, I like exercising as many parts of my brain as I can, and usually it means I exercise no parts of my brain, and it's all atrophying away. I don't know what's happening.
My goodness. Okay, so with your technology background and your entertainment background, with AI and all the different technology that's changing right now in the world, what do you see? How do you see technology impacting comedians, if at all?
Well, by the way, I'm actually working on a new AI program myself. It's called ChatGPT, and we use OI instead of AI, and it will actually predict how disappointed you will be in your children. No, so, of course, I have my friends up in Canada, and they're all using AI. Okay, focus back to where we were. Uh, so this is great. So you could use AI. The key thing is it's how technology is used. A lot of people that become known today, even you think back at Justin Bieber, how they blew up on the internet. Short clips because we have no attention spans, and Gen Z and millennials are like, this ran 32 seconds. I'm worn out. But people are clipped. They're known to put in keywords, key search words, get followers, all that stuff that you are very good at. You and your team are phenomenal at that. To know that little clips, I try to stay connected with my children's. Um, Clips like that, could go out and you could use AI to maybe figure out which groups of people are going to respond to this. You could also use AI to create a whole fake act, which I'm you know, I feel bad for them trying to listen to my actual act. I'm not going to create a fake act. But I think the technology platforms of how people consume and what they see and the recommendation engine. So if there's any AI used to say, well, if you liked Carrot Top, you'll like Jeff. Well, I don't know about that, but I'm trying to get into whatever it is. Uh, those that certainly helps with technology, or they recommend other things. Or if you like this clip, click here and go see him at a show coming to a town near you. So all those things can be to help with cross promotions and platforms. You look at podcasts, right? I said, how do people get big and famous today? Look at how the elections, I believe, were impacted with whether it was Rogan or a couple of other major, Andrew Schultz. I saw his pod. I mean, people that use their podcasts that were just down to earth, relatable, talking to people that people resonated with. Everybody's got a podcast. So I think that technology and just getting on TV and
Mhm.
getting on one of the late night talk shows uh, is not necessarily the formula to blow up in your career anymore as much as are you out there? Are you out doing some live shows? Certainly still builds a buzz, but clips from that and then people take it and repackage it. And there's actually, I know there's so much more I could actually do, but I'm so busy, or it's like hiring the right people that could actually do that for you. And then you can get booked more and more places. So
Now,
I
with all
think,
the platforms now, like with OpenAI or Seek or any of those programs that you can interact with, have you ever played around with using like your comedy on it and seen how it reacts?
it kept going. Our algorithm determines that this is not comedy. So then
It doesn't like you
they
yet?
sent me back to CompuServe and MySpace. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't tried that. So I'm open to that, right? And I see a lot of people that have blown up their profile by using more stuff, like even TikTok and everything. It's interesting. My son is in New York City, and there's a guy that walks up to people and go, "Hey, for $100, who's your favorite artist?" And he plays 3 songs. So my son, the guy came up to him. He was on the phone, and he goes, "Oh, on the phone," and he goes, "Who are you talking to?" He's like, "My mom," and it was just like so lovable, whatever. But it got like 30 million views. It blew up. And he goes, "I like Travis Scott," and he winds up nailing the test. Gives my son $100. I'm upset with my son because he had bought tickets, he and his roommate, to go see. I don't want. How much are we spending for you to be there, right? And then he goes, "Well, no, no." Then the guy came back like the next day, "Hey, you blew up. I'm going to give you," and he like surprised him with like front row pit tickets. And my son sold the tickets he bought for more than he paid. I'm like, now I like that. Okay, so and it's almost like, and like I'll post something on. My kids have to say, "Dad, don't tag yourself on Instagram. Do what you want, and tag yourself on Facebook." I'm like, "Facebook's for the old people." I'm like, "I appreciate that, like." So there's probably a lot more I could do, but I'm like going, got to balance the time with everything else, and even like promoting Rat Pack shows too. We got a bunch coming up. But
It's exciting.
yeah,
Okay, so if someone wants to break into the entertainment industry and do stand up, what's probably the most important thing they should know?
change careers now. Don't do that. No, no,
Just don't do it.
no. Of course, I have see a lot of people ask me questions, and I always love to encourage. I always, I just think of myself as, sure, I'm a comedian. I don't say, "Oh, I'm a comedian." I just say, this is what I do. I love doing stand up comedy. And I found that write down. You got to write. We never write enough. Write every day. Ideas come down. Write. And to have 5 minutes of material that's good can take a long time, right? That's actually good for not even just a few audiences. Go to open mics, do things, but also get to the point where you're not rambling, but you could be yourself, right? And we all go through the process of gaining our confidence in any field we go in, right?
Yeah.
Truly, how do you get to the point where you really don't care what the audience thinks? Now, some people take that as you're being rude and disrespectful to the audience. That's not my point at all. But I got to remember, because if I hear a comic that says something that's completely against something I believe in, however it's funny, I'm laughing.
Mhm.
I don't have to believe and agree with your joke. If it's a good joke, I'm going to laugh with you, right? And it's part of it's because you believe it. Now it may be a horrible premise, and I would never perpetuate, but it's funny. So I'd say if you believe what you're talking about, people will come along because they see that you really believe what you're saying. So I'd find a place, and people always say, "What's your voice? You know, what's your point of view, your perspective? What's unique about you?" And there's some that say that that could take 7 to 10 to 20 to a lifetime to actually develop. Right? You'll see people changing their styles all the time in every field till they find what works. Right? Basketball teams, and we're seeing that now in the NBA with everybody being, the shell game going on right now. It's really who are you? I find that if you're authentic, and it's about people say, say something funny. And I go, no. And then they laugh. And I'm like, that wasn't funny. I go, because I'm not a wind up monkey, in the end of the corner playing the little cymbals. It's like, I'm not, I just say, my goal is to just be funny by just how you see the world. Right. You see something, you go, that's pretty funny, and then how things that observations, perspectives, things that make me laugh. That's all. And then you try to be authentic and bring that to the audience.
That's awesome. Well,
Right.
Jeff, thank you for your time today. If people want to connect with you or
Yes.
hire you or go see a show, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Or no, now that we know who you are, let's look at his schedule so we know where to avoid him. Right. So please go to my website. It's jeffapplebaum.com, JEFFAPPLE. B as in boy, AUM as in Mary.com. So the first is like Apple, like the first word we learned to spell. JeffApplebaum.com. And I've got some great shows coming up here over the next day. I got a great show tomorrow and next week and week after. We have some Rat Pack shows. All my schedule's on there. They can reach me at jeff@jeffapplebaum.com, email. And always love to interact with real people, not just bots. And, I know most of my fans always start off with, really like who are, please reach out to me. I tried calling several times, but no response. Please send me DM. I love those people too, but I'm not sure they have an actual, I don't think there's a real heartbeat behind that other than,
That's
I'm
your
friends with
email
AI engines.
fans.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you. And I hope for those of you that are still awake, thank you for staying with us tonight. And for those of you who stayed with us, you'll probably now have a very good night's sleep now that you're all lulled to sleep.